Hi everyone, I'm Emily, and today I will be sharing my Nintendo 3DS game collection. And I've been a big fan of the 3DS for a few years now. It is actually the system that got me back into gaming. I made a little video sharing my handheld game collection and brief gaming history. I'll link it up in the cards if you're interested in watching that. But today is all about the 3DS, and I feel like I share this with many other 3DS game collectors, in that this past year we've been rapidly trying to buy up titles before they become impossible or too expensive to obtain. And so far I've obtained 50 titles in my physical game collection. I recently hit this milestone, so I thought it was a perfect opportunity to share my collection today. So I have everything loosely grouped in categories, so you'll get a sense of the games I tend to gravitate towards. And with that, let's get started. Alright, so I'm going to start off with the game that started it all. That is The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. And I believe this is the first run edition. And I talked quite a bit about this game in my handheld collection video, where I shared sort of my brief gaming history, if you want to check that out in the card. But I think for the 3DS, this is a must-own game. The wall traveling here I thought was really ingenious and really brought a fresh perspective to top-down Zelda games. And to continue with Zelda, I do have Ocarina of Time 3D, which was my first exposure to this game. And I could see why it's a very beloved title. I actually haven't 100% beaten it. I did kind of leave off a bit at the end, but it is definitely, I think, a worthwhile title and probably one of the best ways to play Ocarina of Time. And I also have Majora's Mask 3D, which again was my first time playing this title, and this was a lot of fun. I like the kind of somber tone this took. This is definitely, I think, the darkest Zelda title that I've personally played. The only aspect that I didn't enjoy was the time limit, and I know the time limit is actually not that bad. They give you plenty of time to do all the tasks and whatnot, but the constant reminders of how much time you have left just made me feel very anxious. And I think it does add definitely to the atmosphere of this game, of feeling this sense of doom that's going to happen. But yeah, that kind of wasn't my favorite thing about this game. And now I'm just going to get into all the RPGs because there are a lot, starting with all the Atlas titles. So first up we have Radiant Historia, Perfect Chronology. So this is the remake of the original DS game, but they added a new chapter and updated the graphics and art style, and perhaps the voice acting too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is definitely a must-own RPG for the 3DS system. I know with prices right now, this is definitely one of the more expensive titles, so this is one I definitely recommend you get on digital before that becomes no longer possible. But I really love the battle system for this, with sort of the grid pushing feature. I thought was really well done, and the time travel aspects I thought were really well done in the story part of this game. So highly recommend this. Next I have Alliance Alive, which you can see is still sealed. This is a recent acquisition, and this is also one of the games that I've double dipped. So I do have this for the Switch, and I haven't played that one either yet. I'm actually unsure which version I should play first. So if you've played both editions, please let me know which one you recommend, because this is definitely an RPG that's very high up on my list that I've heard nothing but good things about. And then we also have Legend of Legacy, which I've heard mixed things about. And I believe this is sort of the predecessor to The Alliance Alive, but I did hear that this is a little bit more tedious in terms of the RPG aspect, and the story isn't as rewarding as I think some are hoping. But yeah, it's still on my list. I definitely want to give it a try. I usually find a lot of success with Atlas titles, so someday I'll get to that. So that was it for all of my big box Atlas games. Now I have the stack of Shimigami Tensei games, and I'm actually currently playing Devil Survivor Overclocked at the moment. And this is actually the first Shimigami Tensei game I've played, And I chose this because it has a lot of strategy RPG elements to it with the grid navigation system, and this is a lot of fun. I'm currently on Yuzu's route. I'm about to wrap that up, and I think I'm going to try some of the other routes to try to speed through them. I probably will have to look up a guide for that, but the demon fusion system in this is very addicting and a lot of fun, and I could see why a lot of people love Shimigami Tensei games just for that alone. So highly recommend you get this, and this is also another kind of remake of the DS version, though they made this one slightly easier and more accessible. So definitely recommend getting this version. And I have the sequel here, Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker. And I'm sure I'll love this game too. Actually, I've heard this is a lot of people's favorite Shimigami Tensei game, just in general. And so I'm very excited to play this sometime. Usually after I finish a long RPG, I like to mix in a different genre. So I'll probably space this one out before I get to it. And then next I have the mainline title, SMT4, which I haven't played. Actually, I think I started it like years ago, but got a little confused and put it down. But I definitely want to restart it again and see sort of how this compares to the Devil Survivor games. This is more of a traditional turn-based game with monster collecting elements. And I know I've heard people describe this as a darker Pokemon, which I think does have some merit, but it sounds like this is a more complicated kind of universe with different routes and decisions. So I'd be very excited to try this one out again and see how it goes. And I have the sequel of sorts, SMT4 Apocalypse, which I've heard mixed things. It's either, I think, you're in the camp that you love it or that you hate it. And I believe this takes place right after the events in the original game, but this I think could also just be a standalone. I don't think you have to play SMT4 in order to appreciate it, though I might be wrong on that, having not played it. But yeah, I'm very curious to see sort of what the controversy is regarding this game. And then the last SMT game I have is the Devil Summoner Soul Hackers game. And as many of you know, this is getting a sequel on basically all consoles except the Switch later this year. So I definitely want to try this out and see how it is, and maybe eventually I get to the Switch and I'll buy it on there. But if not, might have to try it on the PS4 eventually. And then next I have Conception 2, Children of the Seven Stars, and so again this is an Atlas title. I bought this mostly for collection purposes. I've heard this game's kind of eh in terms of gameplay, and definitely the story is a little weird. So I'm not sure if I'll actually like it, but I want to give it a try since Atlas has good quality games and it's a strategy RPG, so definitely want to give it a try. I'm not usually too pressed with fan service, so I don't think that'll bother me so much, but I did hear the story and characters are kind of lacking, so we'll see how that one goes. Stella Glow, on the other hand, I've heard nothing but good things, so I'm excited to try this game out. I think, again, it's a strategy RPG with some fan service elements, but I heard that the gameplay is really fun, and the story and characters are not too cringe, so definitely excited to try this one out. And then to wrap up my Atlas section, so we have the first one here, and this has characters from both Persona 3 and Persona 4 in a dungeon crawler sort of setting. And both of these play very similar to the Etrian Odyssey series that has sort of the map making system, so I wanted to be sure to pick these up before they became more difficult to find. And this sequel here adds in Persona 5 characters. So yeah, I haven't actually played the traditional dungeon crawler games yet, but I feel like they'll be up my alley. And the whole map making aspect on the lower screen of the 3DS, I think makes it really unique and something that I don't think any other game console is going to recreate anytime soon. So these games, along with the Etrian Odyssey games that I'm hoping to pick up eventually. So next I'm going to go into my Square Enix games. And I have Kingdom Hearts here, Dream Drop Distance, and this is a game I have played and beaten. And I would say out of all of the spin-offs for the Kingdom Hearts series, this is probably one of the better ones. I definitely enjoyed my time in this, and the whole dream sequence where you switch between Sora and Raikou is interesting. Sometimes it's a little annoying if you're in the middle of a boss fight, but it's not too bad. And I do like how you can recruit some of the Dream Eaters as your companions to fight alongside you. So that was kind of a cute aspect. So next we have Bravely Default, and unfortunately this is a UAE or World Edition. I bought this blindly off of Amazon a few years ago when it was discounted. And yeah, I didn't realize that these were World Editions were a thing. But I've played the demo of this and enjoyed it. I just haven't actually picked up this game and played it yet. And I also have the sequel, Bravely Second End Layer. So this is the true sequel of Bravely Default. The one on the Switch is, I've heard, its own game, that you don't have to play the first game on the 3DS to fully understand. So yeah, eventually I'll get to these. My backlog of RPGs is very long. And here is Dragon Quest VIII. And I did pick this up for a pretty penny, though it's not as expensive as they're going for now. So I'm glad I picked this up when I did. But I bought this after playing Dragon Quest XI on the Switch. And having played that, I heard that this is also a fan favorite game, and the most definitive way to play it is on the 3DS at the moment, over the PS2 game. So I'm excited to dive into this when I have time to play another hefty RPG game. And then here I have Final Fantasy Explorers, and I've heard this is basically like Monster Hunter, just with Final Fantasy characters. But I think unlike Monster Hunter, I heard that this, you sort of need to play this with friends. I don't know if that's true. So if you've played this game, let me know how it is solo. But yeah, basically for that reason, I haven't played this yet. And then my last Square Enix title is the limited edition of Final Fantasy Curtain Call. So this just comes in this cardboard box, and it has a soundtrack, though I've heard the CD only has like 4 songs or something on it. So it's not that special. But this is a rhythm game, and I've heard this is one of the best rhythm games for those who don't normally play rhythm games. So I'm excited to test this one out. This is another recent acquisition. I wanted to at least get one rhythm game for the 3DS system to sort of experience that using the dual screen feature. So I'm very curious how this will go for me. Next, I'm going to go into my Fire Emblem games, starting with Awakening. And I've mentioned this before in my handheld collection video, that Awakening was my first foray into the Fire Emblem series, and I think it's definitely a great entry point for a lot of people. I don't think it's necessarily the best Fire Emblem in the series by far, but I think it's definitely a great entry point for a lot of people. And definitely a lot of fun for, I think, new and older fans. And then I also have the special edition for Fates, and I had to unfortunately pick this up aftermarket, though it's not the crazy prices that you see today. I picked this up maybe like 3 years ago. And unfortunately the box is not in the best condition, but it does come with everything, and most importantly it comes with the single card game. So I'm very happy to have this in my collection. And I would say this is probably my least favorite Fire Emblem game, even though I did have fun playing it. I do feel like I need to replay parts of it and I haven't done the third route, which was the reason to get this game. So I need to do that at some point. I think Birthright and Conquest sort of cast an interesting perspective on the Fire Emblem series. I definitely think this is a worthwhile title to pick up, even though story-wise and also character-wise, this is not necessarily my favorite of the series. Then I have, lastly here, Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valencia, and I think this is actually my favorite Fire Emblem game. This is the remake of the second Fire Emblem game, and I really hope that Nintendo does more of these Echoes games. There are just so many great aspects of this. I liked how they changed up entering dungeons, the storyline, and the different battle mechanics I thought were really well executed. And I actually own this limited edition of this, which is the same size as the Switch limited edition boxes, for those interested. But I'm really happy to have this in my collection because I've become a really big Fire Emblem fan. And this title in particular is definitely one of my favorites. And this is nice, it comes with an art book, a CD, and some pins. So I'm not sure how readily available these are now. They used to be fairly easy to pick up, but I imagine less so now. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite things in my collection. Okay, now I'm just going to go through a lot of random RPGs by other publishers, starting with Tales of the Abyss by Namco. And I do own 2 Tales games, but I have not played either yet. You're going to see a common trend here. I like to pick up games, but it takes me a while to get around to them. But I've heard really good things about this title in particular, and it's an upgrade from the PS2 version. So I'm hoping to play this sometime soon, actually, and see how it goes. And then this is the only new Nintendo 3DS game I own, and I adore Xenoblade Chronicles. I actually haven't played it on the 3DS. I played it on the Switch, which is definitely the definitive way to play this game. Honestly, I don't know who would prefer the 3DS version over the Switch version, but I bought this mostly for collecting purposes because I love Xenoblade games. And I figured I should get at least one new 3DS title, so I picked this one. And the next we have One Piece Unlimited World. And this might seem like a weird thing to have in my collection, but I'm actually a huge One Piece fan. And while their games are not that great, I still like to get their games for all the fan service, and I just love One Piece. So that's how I justify getting this on the 3DS. And here we have Lord of Magna, Made in Heaven, and this is a Marvelous or Exceed title. And I got the launch edition box that comes with the CD. So I haven't heard too much about this game other than it's a strategy RPG, and so that's usually enough for me to buy a game because I really like this genre. But this looks fun. I think it's another sort of fan servicey game, but curious to see how the stories and characters shape up to be. Then here I have the launch edition for the 7th Dragon 3, code VFD, and I've heard really good things about this game. This is the only entry, I think, of the series that was published in the West, which is a little disappointing. But this looks like a really interesting RPG with, I think it has dungeon crawling in it. I might be remembering incorrectly. But I've heard some people say really good things about this, and this is a Sega published game. So again, it's one of many RPGs that's on my backlog. And the last of the stack is Fragrant Story, published by Squire Games. And in my last video, I actually did a full unboxing and first impressions video. I'll link that in the card if you want to check that out. But this is the only 2022 3DS game I have in my collection. So that's what makes this particular title unique. And I feel like this is a lot of people's collections, but I have Pokemon games. I just tried to collect one for each generation. So I have Pokemon X here, and I did play quite a bit of this. It has its flaws, but I did enjoy my time with this one. As well as Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. I never played the original, So it was nice to see this generation done in this HD remake. And I think this is actually my favorite Pokemon offered on the 3DS. I think story-wise and a lot of the Pokemon offered in this game were a lot of fun. And I've heard that there's actually issues with the North American carts in this game for Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby. So just a word of caution out there, especially if you're planning to get this on the used market. And then lastly for Pokemon, I do have Moon and Ultra Moon. And I actually haven't played these. I went off Pokemon for a while and only semi-recently picked these up within the last year. I got a used version of Pokemon Moon for a good price, and then I think I bought this from the Pokemon Center because they had this new, and I knew I wasn't going to get one of the World Editions from them. So I have heard that a lot of people enjoy this generation. It is a little different, so I do plan on playing these eventually. I'm probably going to skip Moon in favor of just playing Ultra Moon. I guess if any Pokemon veterans are watching this, we know that's a good strategy to have. But it sounds like this is just a more complete version of Moon, though I did hear that the endings or something are a little bit different. But yeah, I don't really see myself playing both. Maybe someday, but not in the near future. And to continue the monster or pet games, I have Yokai Watch, the first one. I got this used for not very much. This is definitely the easiest Yokai Watch game to pick up, and I haven't played this yet. You're going to see this as a running theme of a lot of my game collections. But it sounds like a nice take on the kid-friendly monster collecting sort of games. So I know this is really popular in Japan and not so much in the Western world, so I'm very curious how this will go. And just like with Pokemon, I don't try to double dip when it comes to different generations. I know that I think it's Psychic Specters would have been the better or more definitive Yokai Watch 2 game version to get, but that one's basically out of my price range at this point. But yeah, I decided to go with this version because I liked the cover better and it sounded more spooky compared to, I forget what the other one was called. And then lastly, I have Monster Hunter Stories here. I haven't played a lot of this. I did start it. And I wanted to see how this went before committing to the sequel that was on the Switch. And from the little I played, it was fun. But as you'll see when I do my Switch collection, I haven't purchased the sequel yet. So eventually I will. I feel like Capcom games, if you wait a bit, they do go down in price. So I'm just in the waiting stage now. And for those unfamiliar with this is very different from the traditional Monster Hunter games because this is more similar to Pokemon and Yokai Watch. So just want to put that out there in case you're unfamiliar with this. And then next I'm going to get into more simulation games with some RPG elements. Starting off with Fantasy Life, and I really enjoy this game. This one just has so much content because you could choose all these different lives or classes. So this is a very chill and relaxing game that I highly recommend. And something that I don't hear a lot of people talk about is this has really fun co-op mode where you could basically invite someone to your world and you guys could just run around and do stuff. But yeah, I think I played as the mercenary first, but they also have crafting classes and there's a lot of value, I think, in this game. Next we have Ever Oasis, which is another simulation game. This has some town management and you go into dungeons to collect materials and things like that. I haven't played this yet, but from what I've seen, I think I will enjoy this a lot, and I've heard nothing but good things. This was one of the later titles from the 3DS line, so I don't think a lot of people picked this up, but I think it's definitely one that should be on people's radar. And here is Rune Factory 4. This was my first Rune Factory game, and easily is one of my favorite games on the 3DS. I just enjoyed this game so much. I was a little tentative because I never played a farming game before, but this also is an action RPG game and dating sim, just kind of all rolled up into one. And they have all these different game elements, but they somehow make it work in this package. I did also double dip on this on the Switch version, which I haven't played the Switch version yet, but I've heard more often than not people enjoyed the 3DS version the best. But yeah, this is definitely, I think, a must-have game if you enjoy action RPGs, farming games, dating sims, or all the above. And I had a lot of fun with this. And in a similar vein, we have Popolo Cross, which I'm probably not pronouncing correctly. This is a Story of Seasons game, which is well known as a farming simulator game. But this one's a little different in that it plays more like a RPG. I've heard this is one of the weaker titles of this series, but I've heard it's fun nevertheless. It's just maybe a tad easy. As you see, it's still shrink wrapped. It was a recent pickup, and I'm going to give it a try to see how it goes. And continuing with Story of Seasons, I have Trio of Towns here, which is again another recent pickup. I've been trying to get more into farming sims outside of Rune Factory, so I haven't played a Story of Seasons game yet. I picked up also the Mineral Town game on the Switch, which I might try out first, but I've heard that this specifically Trio of Towns is a fan favorite, so I'll definitely be playing this game sometime soon as well. And then finally, I have some Mario games, namely Super Mario 3D Land. I have played this, but I don't think I've done every single level yet. But this is definitely, I think, a must-own game if you like platformers. It's very classic Mario, and 3D in this is pretty cool, actually. I also have Super Mario Bros. 2. I played a little bit of this, and of course I played the original before. And I haven't really been motivated to play all this because I think the coins are a bit distracting. I get why they added it to make it fresh, but yeah, I think there's too many points. And then recently I picked up Mario and Luigi Dream Team, and I haven't played this yet, but from what I've heard, this is really fun, and I haven't played the Mario RPGs yet, but they do intrigue me, and I feel like I would like them. So I'm hoping to test this one out soon to see if I want to get the other Mario RPG-like games from the system. And then I have Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn. I actually never played a Kirby game before, and so I've heard this is not the best one to start with. Kirby's Triple Deluxe and Kirby Planet Robobot I've heard are really the best for the system, but I really like the yarn aesthetic here, so I was glad I was able to find this sealed for a really good price semi-recently. And now I have just some random games, starting with Tamagotchi Life. Again, another recent pickup. I feel like this is a very unique title that we won't see again. They might bring one over to the Switch, but I'm not too sure at this point. This is super popular in Japan, and it has a very beloved fan base out in the West too. But basically you could just create any character you want based off of real life if you wanted, or just fictional characters, and you sort of just watch them and how they interact on an island together. And I heard it's a lot of absurd moments, so it just sounds like a light and fun game to try out. Here is the only puzzle game I have at the moment for the 3DS, Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask. I actually haven't played the Layton series. I know there's a lot of titles on the DS in particular that I might try to go back and back collect, but it's so hard to back collect these days. But yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about the Layton series, and this seems like a really good entry point, and it's not too expensive at this time. And next we have Virtue's Last Reward. This is the second entry to the Zero Escape series. And I'm thinking now that I'm collecting for the PS Vita, it might make more sense just to stick with those versions. I have played the original, but I haven't played this sequel yet. So yeah, I think I might have to switch gears and try to go for the PS Vita version instead of the 3DS line, because I'm pretty sure the third one of this one is getting harder to find. I've been trying to pick up a few more visual novel-like games on the 3DS system. They don't have too many, but I have been eyeing the few that are on the system. And the last game I have in my collection is Castlevania, Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate. I've played some Castlevania games before, but not this one. This one I think had a mixed reception because it did change up the formula a bit. I got this, I think, as a reprint. I think they started reprinting these last year unexpectedly. So that's how I came upon this particular copy. But yeah, it's another thing to add to the backlog. Alright, so those are all 50 physical 3DS games I currently own. I actually have 2 on the way that I've picked up. I will probably share those in a future video. You may have noticed some holes in my collection compared to what some others may have. When it comes to games I want for my collection, I want to say there's at least 10 titles that I would be interested in, and maybe 5 additional ones that are probably going to be out of my price range. So I'm not really contemplating those. So I guess in short summary, I do want to get most of the Etrian Odyssey games. I think that dungeon crawler with the mapping aspect is something that would really appeal to me. There are a few more first-party Nintendo games I'd like to pick up, mostly the Kirby games, probably Yoshi's Woolly World I'd like to get as well, since I don't have a Wii U. And there are also some more Mario RPG games I might eventually pick up. But yeah, other than those, we'll have to see what good deals I find, and I'll definitely share those in future haul videos. And now that we've wrapped up this 3DS game collection, I will be sharing my Nintendo Switch collection sometime soon. It is actually double the size of this 3DS collection, and definitely one of my favorite systems of all time. So I'm looking forward to sharing all those games with you guys soon. So until then, bye guys!